Heavy is the other 90s boxing anime we'll be getting into this week, and though it's not as thematically, dramatically, aesthetically, or electrically exciting, it's still something I think deserves this recognition as it also lays up on lost media life support. On top of that, this is something I found little nuggets here and there to relate to. Can you guess why? Anyways, 1990 was when this little 52-minute joint dropped, so let's get into it. Waking up from recurring dreams of a character or a person he just can't understand why he seems to keep seeing sends this man on a walk down a dark alley, pondering his thoughts as he begins to flashback on the devastating moment the day he was diagnosed with cancer, which is pretty brutal cause he himself is a doctor, or was. Anyways, he bumps into a group of kids of which one of them lets him know there's a fight up at the local school, and when Doctor goes up there, he spots what of course is the very young man he was visiting in his sleep. However, this is a martial arts fight he's witnessing, karate versus wrestling. Now you've been hearing me say this a lot in recent videos, but homie's got the skills to pay the bills. Maybe a little too much skill for his opponent's safety, however something special sits inside of him, and it catches Doctor's eyes who thinks this boy would do wonders as a boxer. So a little following, actually let's be real, stalking, and the two get acquainted. By the way, our doctor, Mr. Alex Gordon here, is the kind of doctor who specializes in sports, so he understands the body really intricately when it comes to athletics. And when this dude allows him to analyze his body, I wonder why, cause best believe I wouldn't take my shirt off for some strange old man to check me out. Doctor can't believe what he's seeing, and proceeds to encourage him to get into boxing. Believe it or not, despite being a street fighter, this kid is not just an airhead who has some kind of mommy or daddy issues and wants to fight. He has quite the head on his shoulders and says he doesn't want to box long term because he sees a future as an accountant. In this situation, it's actually the old man who's got it backwards because he firmly disagrees and thinks the guy should forget academics and pursue boxing with him. Of course, a lot of this has to do with how little time Dr. Alex has. Remember, he's dying of cancer, but still. For context, Dr. Alex is an American and Guy, our young dude's name is Guy, I assume is Japanese. His last name is Hyuga. So there could be a Western versus Eastern clash in ways of thinking when it comes to life choices for one's own pursuit of fulfillment. Once this old man goes into some abandoned building to try to negotiate with some weirdos who's about to rape this little vixen right there, and for the record, she hangs around the rest of the anime. Yeah, when Dr. Alex starts getting his ass whipped, the OVA really starts. And the rest, man, I'm not gonna keep saying it every video. You know what you need to do. Guy and Dr. Alex, man, the two are an interesting pair, even internally within themselves, where one is old and not as mobile yet living free and risky because of his illness, the other is young and vibrant with very solid conditioning, but is mentally militant and mature as hell for his age. They both meet in the middle with how much drive and self-belief and determination they have to a somewhat common goal. These double dichotomies and the one direct correlated interest swirl together better than chocolate ripple ice cream. In comparison to Burning Blood that we spoke on the video before this one, I even recommend you go back and watch that one, then come back to this good video, less than 10 minutes. Heavy is more serious in its demeanor as a story as far as its content and the psychology of the characters we explore. These characters got a lot going on in their personal lives, and it plays into how they show up in the show. Another comparison between the two is how both came out in the same year, but Burning Blood is very progressive towards the now 90s style and the energy of storytelling and direction, whereas Heavy might have still been stuck a year or two in the past. Don't get it twisted, as that's not to say it's necessarily a bad thing. A lot happens in Heavy and it really does pull your strings sometimes. People really get hurt, physically and mentally. This old man sees a lot. This guy goes through a lot. And the two of them build a small bond that I wanted to make sure was savored in anime's retro history the best I can. And Dr. Alex ain't the only one with a fatal condition lurking in his body. Some real sad moments in this. And I'm dead ass serious, I'm not just saying that. If you watch it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's very heart-wrenching. I predict tears in your future, or at the very least short-term emotional dread. As far as boxing goes, and how it's animated, it's not as flashy and dare I say shonen-esque as many other boxing anime out there like of course Ippo and Ashita no Joe. Matter of fact, there's just the one fight at the last 15 minutes of the show, but it still has its own style in a basic and traditional sports anime sense. It does get really violent and bloody throughout the series, and especially at the end, and obviously takes more of a street approach to physical combat and benefited from navigating this option. Visually, what immediately sets this one apart from a lot of the OVAs from this period was location, location, location. Heavy is set in the gritty streets of New York City. It's dope seeing the Brooklyn Bridge to Manhattan animated, mention of Harlem, and even the efforts, which I'll elaborate on in a second, to bring a realistic perception to the eyes of the viewer as for where they need you to believe the story is set in. I'd say as a Japanese anime depiction, this feels more like New York than Gunsmith Cats feels like Chicago. Take that to heart as it says a lot. If you've seen Gunsmith Cats, you know they did a damn good, magnificent job with its setting. But in Heavy, the brownstone buildings and apartments look specific to NYC. And of course, Manhattan gotta be done right or it will be obvious it's not a proper depiction of Manhattan. But yeah. I noticed the setting gets even more specific as it mentions certain outskirt areas of the New York metro area like Westchester County's Yonkers. To accompany the urban New York tone, you see an interracial cast of characters, of course most of them non-dialogue and utilized for background or accessories, but again, really helps shape the world here to feel more real. And even better, these were literal and realistic depictions of black people. Not going overboard with the literal color black for its designs or unnecessarily large noses and lips. Characters look like a Japanese animated version of an African American boy or man or girl. And of course, I spoke too soon. Generally, I'd say the art and animation look great, even though the anime is a bit behind like I said earlier. One memory I'll point out is how at some point we see a snowy New York, and again, because of the location feeling right and exact, stuff like this enhanced the way the art and animation are executed. Like an anime version of snowfall in a western metropolis hits different than us usually seeing this in Tokyo or Hokkaido or something. Trust me, don't take me too deep on that, it's just something that I wanted to say. Now, music, not very memorable, and there was hardly music playing often, and when it did, it was just sounds to carry the scenes, very few instruments in them. That's it, man. I really need you to watch Heavy. It isn't really heavy in boxing content, it's more about the story surrounding it. And I promise you the story is very inspiring and rewarding and ends on a very promising note. Not much information was left behind, but at least the internet has quality rips with decent translations that have been archived. Like the video, comment down below what y'all want to see next. I'm out. Thanks for watching. Animebackwhen.